Right. Okay. Super. Yeah, because a lot of people ask me they want some special meditation. They want the best meditation. They want like a tantric meditation. But this meditation has everything in it. Okay. So welcome, Belinda. I see you struggling a bit there with the load shedding by the looks of it. Are you okay? Hi. Okay. Brilliant. Welcome, Belinda. Um, Great. So just getting to that comfortable position, a meditation position, whatever that looks like for you. I'm actually going to, I'm sitting in a really cool chair that allows me to cross my legs. So I think I'm going to enjoy that sitting posture. And whenever I sit in a cross-legged position, it's like almost immediately my mind goes into a meditative space. So there's something about the way that we sit, that encourages a good state of mind. And my teacher always says that if you sit in a relaxed but alert way, that's the signal that you send to your mind that you are relaxed and alert because of that body-mind connection. But if you're sitting and you're kind of slouching or your legs are outstretched and crossed, we might not be in that frame of mind because our body isn't quite aligned. So just keep that in mind when we sit. Let's enjoy a deep inhalation, breathing in through the nostrils. Slowly release, exhaling out the nostrils with control. And this really just soothes the nervous system and removes any sort of anxiety we might be feeling throughout the day. Let's breathe in again through the nose. Slowly exhaling it out the nostrils with control. Lovely. One last big breath in. Opening the mouth, gently sighing that breath out. Returning to a natural breath. And if you can, get into the habit of breathing through the nostrils because it's just so much better than mouth breathing generally. Imagining now, visualizing, inviting your holy being into your space, whatever that holy being is for you. And sometimes I like to change it up. Sometimes I see like the Buddha, sometimes I see Tara, sometimes even Jesus or Saint Michael. I mean, I'm a bit diverse, even though being a Buddhist, I still have connections to feeling that other beings, Mother Mary or Shiva or Shakti, whatever, you resonate with, inviting them into your space. And they could be sitting really close to you. In fact, they might even extend out their hand of light and touch your heart in a gesture of love and kindness. And if you struggle to visualize, then build their form from their eyes. Create their eyes first and then the rest of their being. And we imagine, we visualize this deity or this being not as a picture or a painting, but as a living, breathing, three-dimensional being, or five-dimensional if you want. And we start with the first part of the practice, number one, which is prostration. Now, prostration is a practice on its own, but it's a physical practice of prostrating. But for now, we do a mental prostration. So you can imagine bowing to this holy being. It might even be your higher self if you're more atheistic inclined, inviting in your higher mind and thinking of the good qualities of such a mind. Can you imagine a mind that is enlightened, free of klesha, free of afflictive emotion, free of negative thought or depression or grief or anxiety? Imagine that kind of mind. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could cultivate, we could have that mind for eternity without any way of falling down. Think of the good qualities, and as you do, inviting that holy being to imbue your mind with all of their specialness and their enlightened qualities. And as you think this, I will recite the refuge prayer in Tibetan 3 times. Sangye chodang soki chognam la janchu badu dagni kyapsu chi dagi jinso ki pe sonam ki rola penche sangye drupa shog sangye chodang soki chognam la janchu badu dagni kyapsu chi dagi jinso ki pe sonam ki Jola penche sangye drupa sho sangye chodang soki chognam la janchu badu dagni kyapsu chi dage janso kipe sonam ki jola penche sangye drupa sho. So that's the first part of the prayer. The second part is to make them an offering. It might be the most precious thing you own. It might be a wonderful quality. It might be your practice or your dedication to come to these classes, generating really good merit, good karma by doing so. It might be a beautiful visualization of your favorite place, your favorite beach, your forest, your holiday destination. Or it could be a sacred world, a divine world where everybody is free from pain and suffering, old age, death, war, sickness, crime, load shedding. Imagine a world like that, okay? A divine paradise, and offer it to your holy being. I make the mudra of the offering of the universe, and it looks something like that. There we go. And I'm going to sing the Tibetan prayer, Mandala offering. Sajipoiki Jun Shin Meto Tramri Rablinji Nidegen Padi Sangye Shindu Mite Uwagi Joy Konam Dak Shin La Chopa Shok Iram Guru Radhamandala Kam Niryatayami. So now we've done our prostration. We did the refuge prayer with the first 3 prayers, meaning I take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I become enlightened for the sake of all sentient beings. And now we've just offered our holy being this beautiful mandala that increases our karmic connection with them in this life and in many lives to follow until enlightenment. The third part is to practice purification or confession. There's maybe some negative energy that's hanging around. Maybe you're not feeling so well. Maybe you're a bit tired. Maybe there's a health issue. Maybe there's something that you are going through that you would like to feel that could be purified or cleansed. It could be something we said to somebody else that we're not proud of. It could be something we did that we know that that's going to come back and bite us karmically. So we practice the 4 powers, and number 1 is to feel a sense of regret. What can we regret in the last week that we know, oops, that was a bit of a negative karmic seed, and I'd like to take its energy away so it doesn't come back to me. And maybe even if not in the last week, but maybe in your past life, if you're feeling ill, then we can purify something that would be causing that illness. And it could have come from past life or many lives before. Often, whatever we're going through now is obviously a result of what was done previously. And if we can get to the root cause of our suffering, then we can stop our suffering. Okay? So, what is it? Make it clear in your mind what you would like to purify. Feel a sense of intelligent regret, which is not guilt. Okay? By just feeling regret, we remove the guilt and we lay down our baggage. And what a relief it is to do that. We then decide that we will not perpetuate our negative karma that will cause our suffering, whether it's for a day or whether it's for a week, or if we can make a permanent vow, that would be amazing. I will not do this again. I refuse. The third one is to take refuge. I have faith in the process of karma and its workings, and therefore I am using this model to purify my negative energy. I ask my holy being in front of me to help me purify my negative seeds. And then finally, we think of a remedy. What can we do if we are suffering from poor health or mental health? How can we then find someone who is suffering of a similar thing and help them? Okay, that could be a good remedy as an antidote to this negative karma. The fourth process in this meditation is then to rejoice, to say to your holy deity, your dakini, your daka, to say to them, wow, I'm so happy. I've done some really great stuff in the last week or in my life. I rejoice in the goodness that I've done. I am happy for these good deeds. And as we do this, we replant the karma of that goodness, creating massive amounts of positive energy that will drive us beautifully towards eternal bliss and clarity. Think of things that you've helped others, positive thoughts. Maybe you decided to get back into yoga. I see Belinda got back into yoga. Wow, that's brilliant. Feel some rejoicing of looking after yourself, looking after others. How wonderful. Think of all the good things going on in your life, things you're grateful for, appreciative of. Think about your good qualities. Don't forget yourself and what a wonderful being you are. It's some sort of divine pride, not ego, but just some sort of divine pride. And then we ask our holy angel to please stay in our lives. This is the fifth part of the prayer. Please stay, please stay, please stay with me. I want to feel your presence in my day-to-day activities and in my life. And then the sixth part is to ask them to continue to teach. Please teach us in many shapes or forms. Show us through coincidence, through the Dharma, through online teachings, through this sort of format. Continue to teach. And then your holy angel shrinks down to the size of your thumb, and flies up to the top of your crown, facing the same way you are. And they gently descend into your crown chakra, slowly moving their way down the Sushumna Nadi channel, loosening the knots of the Ida and the Pingala side channels, allowing your life energy and prana to flow freely. And they gently descend to a place that you've created for them at your heart, a beautiful sacred chamber. And they're sitting there on a lotus flower, radiating rainbow light. cleansing your body and your speech and your mind. Let's take in another big, deep inhalation through the nose. And then exhaling it out the mouth. Okay, so wonderful. There's our practice for today. If you haven't done your meditation, you've just done your meditation practice. Someone was asking me, so the 7 limbs, what are they, which we've just done? Prostration, offering, confession, rejoicing, asking them to stay, asking a Buddha to stay in your life, asking to teach, and the 7th one, which we do at the end of the class, is dedication. All right. Now, we've been talking a lot about karma, and we've been talking about the 4 noble truths, the 4 Arya truths. Okay. Does anybody remember what they are? You're welcome to unmute and tell me if you know.
I can try and go through it.
Yes.
If I'm remembering right, that there is suffering.
Yep.
That there's a cause to the suffering.
Correct.
That there's a way to end the suffering.
Yes. Yes. Correct.
And there's a path.
Aha.
But the 3 and 4 are a little bit mixed in my mind.
Yeah. Okay. Let's clear that up for you then. But brilliant. Well done. Well done. That's perfect. Let's clear up the difference between 3 and 4, because that was always an issue for me too. You know, what is the difference between 3 and 4? So here are what are called the 4 noble truths. In fact, this is a mistranslation, and that's why it's so good to find a path or a lineage that where your teachers are master translators. So noble is a wrong translation. It's actually the 4 Arya, Arya, Arya truths. Arya means realized, okay, in Sanskrit, because it's the truths that the Buddha realized, all right? But somehow we got stuck with this word noble. Life is suffering. There's a cause of suffering. There's an end to suffering. And the end of suffering is in a path, by following a path. Now Renee's asking, well, 3 and 4 seem kind of like, what is the difference? And there is a difference. The end of suffering is nirvana. Okay, it is in a state of enlightenment. Nirvana literally means to blow out, like you blow out a candle. It's a blowing out of your suffering. It's the end of it. We spoke a lot about the direct perception of emptiness. I think that was last week, where at a certain point in your spiritual life, you will see reality for a short period of time. You'll have a mystical experience. It will blow your mind. You will have an experience of no self, of emptiness, and you will meet the Buddhas directly, and you will look into the face of every living being all at the same time. Okay? That is confirmation that you are on your way out of samsara. It'll take another 7 lives, according to scripture, and you will become a full-fledged Buddha. If you are hearing this, okay, if you have the karma to hear this, you are very, very close. In terms of all your lives, you are very close to having this experience. So isn't that great? Isn't that something to rejoice about? Whoop, whoop, okay? We are really, really close, according to the Buddha, if we have the karma to hear this. So the end of suffering is a state of, there's different types of ending of suffering. There are pure lands, pure realms. There are levels of pure realms. There are still pure land bliss places where we still learn from other Buddhas until we become fully enlightened. Okay, according to what school you're in, will then your enlightenment will be different, and there'll be stages of enlightenment until you become fully enlightened. It is said that some of the Aryas, which are realized beings, actually came back to earth to sit at the Buddha's feet so that they could become fully enlightened. That was like their final, thing. And it doesn't mean that they came back as a suffering being. They still remained realized nirvana beings. Okay, they were free of mental affliction, but they still needed a little bit of a push to become Buddhas themselves. Okay, just because you're in nirvana does not mean that you're a Buddha. Okay, there's a big difference there. Does that make sense, Renee?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so it's quite cool. Can you imagine hanging out all day in a blissful paradise where in the morning you've got a class with this Buddha, and in the afternoon you've got a class with another Buddha, on different topics that you still need to learn. Okay, they say that is the path, and that is nirvana, right? The end of suffering. But we still can learn in that place until we become fully enlightened. Then point number 4 is the path that we follow, which is called the Eightfold Path. All right. Does anybody know the Eightfold Path? I'm just throwing it out there.
I should, Mark, but I don't. I'm a little rusty.
Okay, that's fine, Anne. So we're gonna have a little look-see. I've got the Eightfold Path here. Okay, so this is the path to nirvana, right? This is the path to Buddhahood. This is the path that the Buddha spoke about. So we've been going through life is suffering, suffering is a cause. That's all our karma teachings that we've been doing. Then we spoke about, and I've just spoken about nirvana and perception of emptiness and all of these wonderful things that await us. And now we are going to be going into the Eightfold Path. And this is shared amongst all the schools of Buddhism. They all agree that this is the way. How we approach the way becomes slightly different, but generally everyone agrees this is the way out of suffering. Okay, so here it is. Often you will see the Eightfold Path depicted as a wheel. You see the wheel with different like spokes. So when you go to a Buddhist temple, you'll often see a wheel as a representation, and then people will say that the Buddha turns the wheel of the Dharma, okay? And there are 3 turnings of the wheel, but we're not going to talk about the 3 turnings of the wheel tonight. So it looks almost like a ship. What are those, what do you call them? Where you turn the wheel in the boat. What is a special name for it, right? Can't think of it now. Anyway, the 8 are divided into 3: the division of wisdom, the division of ethical conduct, and the division of mental discipline. So we need to have all 3 of these. The first one in the division of wisdom is right understanding. So right understanding is the understanding of karma. How does karma work? How does my reality being created? Okay, what is emptiness? That's the beautiful thing. We can never remove emptiness from the understanding of karma. Okay, karma and emptiness go together. Emptiness and karma are like married. All right, you can't talk about emptiness and not karma. If I was to talk about emptiness and not karma, I would be not a very good teacher. Okay, you always have to combine the 2. So right understanding is generally, where does reality come from? And we looked at the 3 worldviews. It's either random, like good luck, bad luck, or it's coming from God, or it's the seeds you sow that you are reaping. Okay, that is the wisdom. That is the understanding. Wow, there we go. I've got wisdom to know where my life is coming from. Then the second one, right thought. So and this is where mindfulness is really powerful. I teach mindfulness, but right thought is like, what are we thinking about during the day? Because as we know, the scholastic definition of karma is movement of the mind and what it motivates. And my teacher in India, Ayang Rinpoche, says, mind is the king, right? Everything comes from then speech is like the minister, and your actions are like the subjects, you know. So but everything is born in the mind. So if the mind is if we work on the mind through meditation, through right thoughts, then that is part of wisdom. Thinking all the time about karma, you know, and understanding whatever we say, whatever we do, whatever we think about is generating karma. So it's really, really important for us to clean up our thoughts. All right. Then the division of ethical conduct, right speech, in this regard, meaning honesty, not lying. Okay. Togetherness speech, bringing people together, not divisive. Speaking gently, not harsh, you know, like shouting or swearing. Swearing's cool if it's kind of your mate, you know, and you're having a laugh, right? But to speak gently, not to be aggressive in your speak. And then the final one is to speak meaningfully, and not what can I say, gossip or idle talk. You know, we can see this with men. You know, sometimes guys can talk for hours about soccer or rugby or their bicycles. You know what I mean? Like there's so much time that we waste talking about rubbish, just nonsense that doesn't get us anywhere. Not to say that gossip, not to say that we can talk about the weather, we can have icebreakers, right? But when all day long if it's meaningless, then that's no good. So right speech, right action, okay, action, ethical conduct. How are you living your life in an ethical way? So that would be protecting life, not killing, honoring property, which is not stealing, and sexual purity. So in the monastic side, there would be brahmacharya or celibacy. But in a layman's life, that would be not cheating on your partner, you know, as part of those actions, right? To not practice sexual misconduct. So, and in Buddhism, this is an interesting one, but we'll get into it. And then right livelihood. Number 5, what jobs do you have? Okay. What jobs do you have? Is your job that you do contributing to the benefit of others and yourself, or is your job harming other beings, right? And this can be a tough one for people, because often we take whatever jobs we can get to generate some income. I don't know about your jobs. I don't know how you feel about your jobs, but are they aligned with your spiritual path? And a lot of time people say, yeah, but I just work for APSA and I just crunch numbers all day. And it's like, that's cool. You know, if you're working in a job and you think it's mundane, reframe it, relook at it, because your work is still helping others. Okay. If you didn't have that job number crunching, your clients would not benefit from that, you know. And I love the Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran. He's got a quote that says, "Work is love made visible." You know, so even if you sweep the streets, right, and you do it with love, and you think, I am sweeping these streets so that other people can have clean streets, you know, then that's right livelihood. All right. You don't have to be like a Buddhist teacher or a mindfulness coach or a yoga teacher, or I don't know, working with healing. You don't have to have those jobs if you're not in those jobs. Are there any questions or comments with regards to this right livelihood? You all good?
Mark, I want to ask.
Belinda?
I was thinking about that today, actually. People that farm animals for to be eaten. Yeah, where does that stand karmically?
That's a brilliant thing that you brought into the space, right? You know, I always was quite against the farming and killing of animals, right? Because the Buddha says we must not kill. Killing is negative karma. Okay. I have a friend that has a game farm, and her it's a family business. She's a wonderful person, but they bring hunters in from, people come from United States. I remember when I traveled to America, I was on a flight back, and with all these guys with their like camo outfits, and you could see that they were coming to South Africa for hunting. So what they do is it's game hunting. So these people shoot these animals, and and then they make money from that. Or you could breed cattle, and those cows, whatever, or chickens are then killed for their flesh for food. Okay, and it's not considered to be right livelihood. Although I did a lot of work in the Kruger Park, where we did mindful safaris, and obviously I was hanging out at night, in the park next to the Letaba River with hunters, and some of my friends had big guns and they're game rangers, and they were talking about culling and the importance of having to have these people come, and how that their money encourages the economic growth, and so they sort of started to give me this whole spin on, if it wasn't for this business, they could not protect wildlife, they could not contribute to conservation. So it's like, damn, this is starting to spin my head out, because yes, these people are killing, but at the same time they're conserving, and they're saving more animals or protecting more animals, by arranging these hunting trips. So I'm really like confused a lot of the time, and for me it's very difficult to judge, is this right, is this wrong?
I would say that goes back to intention,
Yeah,
because my wolves have to have meat as well.
yeah,
So I go to ethical hunters to get bones, or when they hunt deer or
sure,
buck.
yeah,
But when you keep cows, and it's also not good for the environment or the planet in the long run,
yeah,
I think the karma is deeper. And I don't, because I earn money from giving messages from the angels and loved ones, I don't buy meat from that.
Yeah.
I don't eat meat, but my family does. But they know I don't use my money for meat.
Sure. How many wolves do you have, Belinda?
I've got 5.
Wow, 5 wolves.
5 wolves.
So,
Yeah. So they need, bones for their teeth and stuff. So in the winter, I know hunters that hunt with bow and arrow,
yeah,
ethical hunting, and then they give me the what do you call it? The carcass.
yes, absolutely. I've got a friend who's a vegan, and his poor dog, when I see his dog is skinny and starving, and because he gives it vegetables, and your poor dog's just hanging for a piece of boerewors, or what I mean?
But that's also bad karma towards that dog.
Yes,
Because I believe there's ways to do it,
Mm.
but if you don't participate in the meat industry, that it depends on how you treat the animals.
Sure.
If those animals aren't treated well while they are alive,
Yeah,
that is bad karma.
absolutely. It's in the nature of the beast, to have to eat like that. So here's an interesting spin on veganism. So I've got lots of vegan buddies, and over the years, every single weekend, because they're the core Buddhist group that I was with, we were running these classes from my house for 12 years. Every week they come on a Wednesday night, we feed them, and we study the Dharma, we meditate, etc. Now these people are gung-ho hardcore vegans, right? militant. Actually, they get angry when people, talk about meat eating. That's also bad karma because they've got anger. So when they get angry, so it was nice to see the vegans soften a little bit and realize that the anger is generating them suffering and causing bad karma. Then I go to India and Ayang Rinpoche says to me, well, we're in a teaching, and he says to my vegan students, you are still killing machines. Think about all the insects and the tiny little bugs and things like that get, or rats or mice or whatever, that get killed in the harvesting of your rice, of your grain, of your corn, okay? So, of your soya. So there is no karma-free food in this world, okay? No. And
that's non-intentional.
Yes. And that's it, Belinda. I think you're 100% right. What is your intention? Okay. What is your intention? And as we know, according to karma, your intention is 90% of the energy of the karmic seed. So, for example, I read a book called, I can't remember the name, but there's a lady that went on a walkabout with the Aborigines, and the Khoisan people are the same in that they will set their intention, they will call the animal spirits, and then they will thank that animal as a brother or a sister for giving up its life to them. They almost feel as though that animal and them have a connection, and the animal appears in their reality because of that. Okay, that to me is powerful. I think that is really, really, really powerful.
Yes.
Yeah. And I started eating meat again after being vegetarian for 8 years, because my health started to suffer. I'm not able to process iron through supplements. So it's very difficult for me. Not to say that it's impossible. Maybe I just need to go to more better doctors or better healers, etc. So if I eat meat, then I'll be thinking, and this is a Buddhist prayer. May I create a karmic connection with this animal, and may I please teach them one day, so that they can be liberated from samsara. I will take on the responsibility of working for their benefit. So yeah, if you're vegan or vegetarian, you might be thinking, well, that's the biggest load of bullshit I ever heard, Mark. But that's my intention. That's my intention.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, if there's any other comments or questions on that, Anne?
Yeah, so Mark, as an aside, so there are you can do iron drips. But
Okay.
yeah, look, I say that, but I mean, I have a iron issue, but I mean mine is, I'm vegetarian, but I mean mine isn't because of digestion that I have an iron issue, but I do have to go regularly for iron drips.
Yeah.
You now
is not
get
great.
iron. Sorry. You
Yeah.
get iron sachets at Dis-Chem that comes in
Yeah,
a liquid form that you drink
I know.
daily.
No, I know. So I have so I have a hernia through which I lose blood. So mine isn't, so for a long, long time I was fine taking any iron supplements, and I used to also take those ones that you drink.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it's called, but but it wasn't at some stage or whatever, this hernia kicked into place, and that's what affects me. So it doesn't matter. I can drink supplements, but I still lose my hemoglobin.
Is it a hiatus hernia, Anne?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've also got a hiatus hernia. I've got terrible reflux. I've got to take tablets every morning for that. I don't know if you do.
So for some reason, I don't suffer. I mean, I wasn't even aware that I had it until I had this iron issue, and then sort of had to go and figure out what was going on. But yeah, so I don't really suffer from the reflux or anything. But yeah, but for me, the loss of that's because it chafes or whatever, and there's I don't know, I suppose you bleed.
Yeah.
I have to do the iron. I suppose I could fix the hiatus hernia.
But the operation, so they don't like operating.
I know.
They often surgeons trying to discourage it because it's very complicated.
Yeah. So so I go for my iron drips.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Anne. So, with skill means and with knowledge, it's important for us to, like I've got a friend, Paul Boiter, who he'll drink milk, he'll eat meat, but he'll find ethical farmers where he can go to and buy these products from, because these days they talk about free range, but a friend of mine said free range is where the chicken peeks its head out of the cage and then it gets stuck back in, and they, so is it free range? Is the food that we consume that says free range, is it really free range? It's up to us to investigate these things. We can't just say, oh well, it says free range. We've got to know, but not to drive us. Yeah. Belinda?
Sorry, everybody, I don't want to take up all the time.
Fine.
But, isn't it also part of our karma to find a way to live cleaner and heighten our vibration also for the consciousness? I see it as part of my karma to find a way. I think we that live on earth now, we are still trial and error as to how can we do this, how can we adapt our bodies, but that to me feels like a deep purpose and a karmic choice that I have made.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, completely. And perhaps through our intention, we will then take on a body that doesn't require for a being to die in order for us to be healthy. I mean, in India, they say that there are yogis that live off light. Their bodies just absorb the sun, and that's what they live off. I mean, I know it sounds weird, but why not? Why not?
Yeah, so I think we need to look deeper into, karmic choices, and in order to, enlighten ourselves or get to that point of higher frequency, this might be a responsibility that we need to think of more seriously.
Definitely. Or even dedicate, like when we do our dedications at the end of the meditation, dedicate the karma to not being a killing machine. I mean, if you think about it, even if we walk to your car, how many ants have you stepped on? How many khokhas have we killed just walking around, driving your car? Things hit the windscreen. You know what I mean? Like all of these things, every time a being dies is a karma for you. Okay. Which is unbelievable how much we kill. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we could exist without having to kill anything?
Mark?
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, some of the way that I've been taught around a lot of this is, I mean, there's no absolute, right? So I mean, and there's a lot of grayness around these kind of things, and at the end of the day, you probably make an ethical choice one way or the other, and maybe you look at that, which in a way may create less harm, arguably, if you can put it that way.
Absolutely. I mean, I admire veganism. I do. I think it's what a wonderful spiritual practice. If it's not going to hurt our own bodies, you see. So, for example, this is very controversial. The Dalai Lama eats meat. He tried to be a vegetarian. His Tibetan doctor said, Your Holiness, if you eat meat, if you don't eat meat, you will die 10 years before your lifespan. And they said, please, Your Holiness, don't, your presence on this planet is more important to us than you dying early. Okay. So that's why the Dalai Lama was advised to continue eating meat. That's the story.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I think, as we said, I mean, in Tibet, people eat meat because there are not a lot of vegetables at the altitudes and all of that. But there's a choice that's made in terms of what they kill in order to get sustenance.
Correct.
So again, less harm. What creates less harm to less karmic impact.
Oh.
And I think this, and I mean, my fear as well is that we can often, we have such clever brains and all of this. We can over intellectualize and we can convince ourselves of a lot of things as well. We can tell ourselves that we are creating less harm or the reasons why we do things. But I mean, I think we have to, in a way, dig deep around some of these choices that we
definitely
make and we exercise.
100%. I agree. Never rest on your laurels or think.
Yeah.
Always investigate. I love that vegans always look carefully at the ingredients on packaging, and they will know exactly what's in the food. So it's awareness and knowledge. A lot of the time.
Well, but I mean, there's that other argument, that kind of like says, well, if we, and I mean, being a vegetarian, I mean, I still depend on cows for milk and chickens for eggs and things like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that horrible counter argument is, well, what would happen to the cows and the chickens if the world turned vegan?
Yeah.
There would be possibly this massive extinction.
Yeah,
because they're utilitarian, arguably. And I'm not defending, because I mean, I do think that I think it, as Belinda raised, I mean, I think it's, how do you do these things? And I mean, I think big agriculture, corporate agriculture is unethical through and through, but I mean, if you looked at a small homestead farm where the animals are free range, all of that sort of stuff, and people depend on those animals for their livelihood, and that I would find it difficult to sort of, in inverted commas, judge.
Correct. Yeah.
So
It's difficult to judge. I agree completely. But to understand, let's come back to karma and emptiness. For you to see a world where animals have to be killed for their flesh is your karma. Okay. We've always got to bring it back to our personal experience. For you to see war, for you to see pain, for you to see suffering, it's all your karma. All of these dilemmas, all of this confusion, it comes back to you as your projection. Okay. That's a hard one to grapple with. Okay. I mean, if you think about veganism, like the amount of vegan products that are on the shelves and in Woolworths now, I mean, it's amazing, like, I mean, just the range that never existed 10 years ago. So karma is shifting. And as your karma shifts, what you find on the shelf changes. It changes, right? Your whole world changes. My vegan friends are like, yay, we created the karma for, I mean, they're talking now about growing meat from stem cells. So you can still eat meat. I mean, I promise you, I saw the science, it's coming. In the next 10 years, you can buy steak without anything having to die for it. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, but so I'm still skeptical about those things, because I'm still like, why do you want to, arguably, why would you want to create that? Because to me, there's consequence still to that, arguably, that machinery, because that's what ultimately it is. There's a machinery behind all of this kind of stuff, and there is a knock-on effect of these things. And I mean, it's, you know, there's so many things. I mean, it was, and I mean, I'm going to diverge at briefly to say, there was, when refrigerators were first invented and all of that, I mean, it was a huge thing.
Yeah.
And the refrigerant that was used was good old CFC, and it was used for ages and ages and ages. And the man who invented it was an absolute hero, until we realized there was a problem with CFCs.
Yeah. No, yeah.
So everything to me is, so I'm like, I probably will not be a user of laboratory or stem cell meat or whatever. I probably won't. Yeah.
I mean,
Likely won't.
and I doubt if meat eaters would accept that in their diet, unless you go to the shop and it's half the price of what a cow meat would cost. If it became economically viable for people, then there would be a shift. But I can't see people going for it, unless you're a vegetarian that likes the taste of meat. I don't know if it's going to be successful.
Yeah, but
I think it's also just.
Sorry.
It just, it's kind of. Hi, my name is Renee. I'm a vegetarian, and I take iron supplements. But it's because, absolutely. I mean, I think what's really interesting about our discussions is kind of like, where do you draw the line? How far do you go back? And I mean, I know people who are into permaculture, and I know people who are into rewilding, and it's kind of, ultimately, if we could all have, I don't know, 20 square meters and rewild that, and like with, say, yes, we've got far too many cows, chickens, etc. in this world right now, but it would just take one generation of their lives each to kind of, and look, I'd quite like a couple as pets if I had enough room. I think cows are lovely, but it's kind of, it would just take 10 to 20 years to not have billions of these animals. And as for the lab grown meat, I guess I might try it, but look, I've gotten to the point where I can't bear the texture of meat. But it's kind of, how far back do we go? I think potentially rewilding is almost the only way. So there's no more monoculture. We're growing our own food, we're bartering with each other. But then how do you do that with 8 billion people? And I mean, right now, so I'm actually for the next few nights staying in the center of Cape Town, and from my apartment block I can see another apartment block. So here are two 20-story buildings with maybe 5,000 people each. It's like, they don't have 10 square meters to grow their veggies. It's kind of, what do we do?
Exactly. Ethical.
But Mark, I was also, and even, sorry, for all these vegans who also, with all respect to those vegans who are celebrating all the stuff on the shelf, I mean, it's a luxury to be a vegan.
Oh, absolutely.
It's expensive to be a vegan. So, to me, there's that other element to it.
We met a lady in Hartbeespoort. So what she does is she goes to the abattoirs, and she gets all the offal, like all the extra bits of the chicken that they throw away. She gets it all. She sells it onto the spaza shops, and literally a poor person can buy a kilogram of the stuff for 25 Rand. You know, a kilogram. It's going to feed their whole family for 25 Rand. Now, is that wrong livelihood, or is it right livelihood? Because she is making it affordable for people living in a shack who's starving, that they can have chicken for 25 Rand. It's going to feed their family, you know?
And I think also so important in that kind of setting. I mean, as I'm a journalist and often write about food in our country, and how 70 to 80% of our country just they're not getting enough protein any which way. So yeah, you know, I would want them to have that kind of opportunity. That said, what, you know, and yes, I'm one of those people who's absolutely thrilled that the likes of Checkers, Woolies, Spar, etc. are carrying vegan products. And also happily surprised these days that, say, Woolies plant-powered protein products are actually cheap. So, you know, maybe all the vegetarian and vegan karma is, you know, it's beginning to work better and better. The products are getting cheaper, but yeah, for I don't know, at least 40 million people in our country, that's still not an option.
Definitely, it's not an option at all, and it's not going to change overnight. So I think we've had a really great conversation around this topic. We haven't covered points 6, 7, and 8, and I think we're going to carry that over for next week as we unpack the noble. I don't even that word is anyway. Let's not knock it too much. But thanks, Sami. It's a great conversation, and it's important to unpack these things because, you know, ignorance is not bliss. Okay. Ignorance is the start of all our problems. There's no devil in Buddhism. Okay, there's no devil. The devil is ignorance, and ignorance creates negative karma. So it's important for us to have these conversations. Okay, we're going to end it there tonight. Let's do a closing meditation. Let's take in a deep inhalation through the nose. Opening your mouth, gently breathe it out. Connecting with your divine angel at your heart center, where you've made a sacred space for them. They're sitting on a lotus flower, whether they're a female Buddha or a male Buddha or whatever deity you resonate with. That could be your higher self mind. And we think of all the suffering beings that perhaps in this context, animals that are killed for their flesh, animals that live in horrible conditions, people stuck in situations where they have no choice but to consume what they are fed, starving, hungry people. And we dedicate this goodness of coming to the class tonight. We've generated some powerful karma by being here together, by discussing these dilemmas. We dedicate the goodness of this, our good karma, to the benefit of all beings, so that they may be free of being farmed for their bodies. For us to be in a world where we don't have to hurt other beings, whether they are caught up in grain or rice or harvested or murdered. We don't have to see a world like that anymore for us. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And we send this light out to all beings so that they may be free of this type of dilemma, this kind of confusion, these gray areas. Imagine the light radiating out in rainbow lights, and it may be at each tip of each color of rainbow, there's a goddess sending out, like working through, healing the situation for all. I'm going to recite a prayer in Tibetan, the dedication prayer. Gewadi kewo kun Sunam yeshe zozo shin. Sunam yeshe le junwe. Dampa kunia topa sho. Important to dedicate. Okay, that's the 7th part of the prayer that we start in the beginning. Okay, dedication. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. Thank you for giving up a little bit of time on your public holiday. And it's lovely to see you all. We'll see you next. Yeah, we'll see you next Monday, right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Night.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.